Hi, my name is Lynn Jung. I am an author tuber and a speculative fiction writer. I write short stories, I write novels, and welcome to the 6th episode of the Project Moths writing vlog. If you are new here, Project Moths is my dark academia adult fantasy. And basically this series is following me as I finish the first draft, revise it, and then query it to agents. And we're currently at the tail end of the drafting stage, which is so exciting because I have not finished a book in like 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 years. Like, it has been a while since I've finished a draft, written the end, properly finished it. So I'm just so happy to be almost done. But of course, the work is not going to end after I type the words the end, and there's going to be a lot more to do after. So that is kind of the theme of today's vlog because I'm sort of looking ahead into revisions. But before we get into that, let's do a little tiny recap of where we've been and what happened in the last episode, because it's been a couple of days since I filmed and not that much exciting stuff has happened, but I still want to kind of like go over everything. I did take a 2-week vacation in January. By the way, it's currently February 17th, and I went to the south of Thailand because I'm currently living and teaching in the northeast of Thailand. During that 2 weeks, I basically fell really behind on my writing goals. Up until that point, I'd been super consistent about writing about 1,000 words a day, starting January 1st, and just continuing that throughout most of January until that vacation. I've been trying to pick it up again, but that's a lot of days lost, you know? So last week, I actually attempted to write 10,000 words in 3 days because I had a 3-day weekend. Did not hit 10,000. I had 4,500, which is not bad. It's still over the 1,000 words a day goal, but it just wasn't exactly what I was looking for. But during that challenge, I did manage to finish Act 4 of Moths. So we are finally officially working on Act 5, which is the last act. It's a really short one based on my outline. So I was looking at my outline the other day and I only have like 3 or 4 chapters left to write, and then the book is done. Not necessarily the climax, but the ending, the denouement of this book has been really clear in my mind since pretty much the beginning. When I went into this current draft, I knew where the story and the characters were gonna end up. So yeah, 3 to 4 chapters left, theoretically. Depends on sort of how the pacing pans out. Last week, I also sent the first 2 acts of Moths to 3 of my friends, Chris and Kelly here on YouTube, and then my friend who is not a YouTuber, Sam. All 3 people that I really trust to be objective and be honest and have good senses for story. So far, Chris and my friend Sam have finished reading the excerpts already. It was like a pretty chunky excerpt. It was about 120 pages. I'm waiting on Sam to finish up her feedback, but I actually do have Chris's feedback. So throughout this video, as I continue to work on Act 5, rather slowly, and as I sort of go back and look at Act 3 and maybe start to prep it to send out to those people, I'm going to take a look at my friends' feedback on my book and I'm going to react to it. I probably won't like read any specific lines unless they're funny or anything. I'm going to kind of talk through how I will address these things in revisions and what I think about them, because the thing with critique and feedback that I had to learn as I was coming into writing, as I sort of started to progress on this journey, is that even if the feedback is from someone I really trust, and I trust all 3 of these people and their feedback is like gold to me and I really take it seriously, sometimes the feedback that they're suggesting isn't going to always work. But more often than not, it's going to be really valid feedback, and I'm going to have to figure out how to implement changes that sort of fix whatever issue is happening. So there's going to be a lot of like discussing, which I think is going to be kind of fun. I also think it'll be funny because actually when Sam started reading the excerpt, all 3 of these people have read earlier versions of the first act, I think. When Sam started her read through, she was like, I don't like the changes, but she actually finished and then kind of saw why I did those changes, and I think came back around and went back and read the first parts, was like, okay, actually, I like this. So hopefully, fingers crossed, other than that, it won't be anything too negative. Obviously, of course, I want criticism, I want critique, but I don't want them to dislike it. So yeah. So I'm not gonna dive into Chris's feedback yet. I'm going to continue working on chapter 26, which is the chapter I'm currently on. Probably going to hit up a cafe for a little bit, then come back. I have some plans with friends in the afternoon. We're gonna do it, we're gonna write. I'm not gonna finish Act 5 this vlog. I know that this is probably gonna be one of those shorter vlogs that doesn't span the whole week, but I'm gonna put some good work into it and focus on the feedback and start to think holistically about the next steps for this book. So that's gonna be this video. I'll see you guys soon. Bye. Hold.
I have ideas. They're on the tip of my tongue.
Hold.
They're slipping away.
Hold, chef.
My grasp on the English language is slipping. I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting.
Stop.
Save me.
I'm ready.
Are you recording?
Yeah, just a little.
So make my comments start out with like, I didn't like this at first, or like I didn't like this change at first because I liked how it was before. That's because
It just froze for like the whole thing you said. Okay, so you don't like that.
I didn't like that, but I think I get it now, and I understand why it happens that way.
Okay, as you just saw in that clip, which I filmed a little bit before I went out for lunch, I actually ended up doing a phone call with Sam to go ahead and discuss some of her notes on mods. And I'm so happy because she actually really liked it, it seems like. I mean, that's what she said. The notes that she had that were sort of like bigger picture and less granular, like not the line edits so much, were on the magic system, which I already knew. I'm gonna have to kind of take a harder look at that and adjust it soon in my first round of revisions, because I don't know, I just kind of like developed that system and implemented it kind of part way. Like it just needs a little bit more work to get to where I want it to be, and there's some logistical things I haven't quite figured out, like the differences between witchcraft and alchemy in this world and how that would look. Practically speaking. So it's stuff that I kind of like knew I had to work on anyways. Nothing unexpected, no like these characters are unlikable or this story sucks or this is like boring or whatever. So I'm really happy and she's excited to read the next act. So those are Sam's notes. I am now gonna open Chris's edit letter and I will admit that I'm kind of nervous about it. Hopefully, again, there's nothing too unexpected in this, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. Okay, so this is an interesting thing. I don't want to like read any of this out loud just in case. I don't know, it's a little bit private, but something that Kris had mentioned to me before was actually that Moths feels like adjacent to the Atlas 6, so it's that very character-focused, sort of esoteric, magical, dark academia feel. Kris has mentioned that she made line-level notes. She and Sam both got their own documents, and Kelly did too, and they just both kind of like did line editing for me. I was getting the notifications in my Gmail as this was happening, and I was trying my best to ignore them, but every once in a while it'd be like one of them correcting a typo, and I'd feel so embarrassed because not in a big way, but I was a copy editor for like my university newspaper, whatever you want to call it. I pride myself in being pretty good at writing cleanly, at least on the copy/line level from the beginning, but apparently not. There's a note here about Moths being actually very vivid with its imagery, which is funny because of the aphantasia thing. Everyone that I sent these first two parts to have read a much earlier version of Act 1. Sam read like an even earlier version than Kris and Kelly did. So Sam was kind of like not vibing with the changes at first, and then she came back around on the reread, but she was like, oh, that's just me because I don't like change, which is valid. That's very fair. And then Kris said that the changes to the first act really helped the pacing, and so that's really good because I actually made those edits based off of stuff she said about the first chapter in those earlier drafts of Act 1, so I'm really glad that those worked out because I was kind of feeling nervous about them. Oh, okay, this is good. Kris really likes the main character, Lark, which is also something that I kind of worried about because she's super complicated. Like, she is a proper, complex, messy female character, and I was kind of worried that like people would think she's too harsh because she's quite manipulative. I don't know. I think good person is like it's a fake concept. I don't think people are good people or bad people. I think you do good and bad things, and everyone is kind of messed up on the inside. But Lark is super harmful to just about everyone around her. She's actively a negative presence in most people's lives, and she's also a negative presence in her own life. Like, she's very self-destructive, and I feel like sometimes there's this reaction that the broader readership will have, or certain readers will have, to a female character who is messy like that. We've all been socialized in a certain way to prefer or place value on women who have their shit together, especially emotionally. And Lark doesn't, for a variety of reasons that I feel like are pretty clear from the beginning and only get clearer as you learn more about her history and like what she's gone through, as all that stuff comes bubbling up for her. I'm very interested in seeing these like pathways, like these reasonable pathways that people get to such low points in their lives, and like what trauma or traumatic incidents or just things that have happened in their lives, like elements of their upbringing or elements of their education, basically just seeing how the different elements of someone's life, the nurture side of that, will lead to them thinking and acting and feeling in certain ways as adults, and how do you unknot those things. Yeah, I'm really interested in seeing and showing and writing about the roots of people's bad behavior. Sam and Kris have both felt invested in her character and her journey, and I think personally that the arc I've written for her pays off pretty pretty well. So it's good. It's good that I'm able to get people invested in her early on and not write her off just because she's like immensely problematic. Oh, interesting note. Okay, so I don't know if I've mentioned this. Honestly, I would imagine that most people who've read my work would assume this, but Lark is Korean American living in France, which is something that I've experienced personally. This is going off something that Kris has said. So this is one of those stories where her ethnicity is not specifically a plot point, but it comes into play. Like, it very much has an effect on her life and her career, and also on her internal self. She's like an angry and self-destructive person, and that really goes against, I guess, like a lot of stereotypes about Asian women, especially East Asian women, being really like put together and docile and obedient. I don't want to get too much into it because some of it is kind of spoilery, but there's a lot of interesting things at play, and I honestly hadn't consciously considered how her being like Asian, a diaspora, and a woman would play into so much of her arc. But yeah, Kris did a really good analysis here. That's so cool. I love it when people analyze my work. I just also love literary analysis in general, or just like media analysis. I love analyzing films and TV shows as well, but like poking into deeper themes, peeling apart the layers, complexity. And I do think that when it comes to theme, like some of the themes that you put in are going to be subconscious and come as a result of your experience as a writer. I think those are the coolest things to like discover. So yeah, it's always cool to see someone like pick up on something that I didn't even really know I was doing. I've gotten through Kris's notes on the characters, and it looks like everything is good so far there. They're hitting the notes that I want them to hit at this point in the story, so that's really nice. It feels like so good to know that I'm doing a good job in that area. Now we're going into world building / magic system, and I have a feeling that Kris's notes are going to be very similar to what Sam was saying, because I feel like they're the most obvious holes in my work at this point. Let's see if she has any specific insights. Okay, so what is the role of alchemists in this modern society? So Moths takes place in a world that very closely mirrors our own. It's basically the modern world, but if magic and alchemy were real and a part of this world. And I've actually had a lot of trouble, and I've talked about this before, evolving that concept. Just thinking about how society would change, how governance would change, the economy is a big part, and like alchemy's role throughout history as well. It's weird because alchemy was, as we know, an actual discipline. It just didn't have the validity and the strength and power behind it that it does in this world, because alchemy is powered by magic. So it can actually do the things that alchemists thought that alchemy could do back in the 16th century, 15th century, like make people immortal and turn lead into gold. Just thinking about how something as small as that would change history, and then also as a discipline itself evolve into this much bigger thing. It's a big thing to conceptualize, and I still haven't done my due diligence on it fully. Like, I still haven't really thought it through, and I need to do that. So okay, I reached the end of Kris's notes. This is like so much more positive than I thought it was gonna be. I don't know why I was like, I wrote the most garbage piece of crap that has ever been seen, and no one will enjoy it. I am so glad that these acts work. Like, the relief I feel right now is so insane. So that's gonna be it for today, because now I have the general feedback from both of them. I'm gonna start taking a look at the inline comments that they made. I think most of it is probably, it sounds like mostly it was just line edits and typos and stuff like that. So it might not be interesting enough to film. But yeah, oh my God. I don't know, sorry, I'm like so in shock. I think I maybe need to have more confidence in myself, because I really was not expecting such little actionable feedback. Not that that's a bad thing. That means I've done my job well, honestly. It's just kind of like, oh, maybe this book is closer to being query ready than I thought it was. But we'll have to see, because I know that the acts 3 and 4 and 5 of this book are in much worse shape. Oh my gosh, okay, well that's such a relief. And they both said such nice things. Like, I'm really so grateful. I know that, of course, I feel like there will be these comments like, oh, how can you trust them? They're your friends. I trust Sam to be honest with me always, because we've known each other since we were kids. So like, there's nothing that she could say about my work that would make me upset at her, you know, like, and she knows that. So she's honest with me, and I trust that. It's just like one of those things. And then with Kris and Kelly, I just trust them as artists. I trust them as writers. I trust their eye for story, and I also trust them to give me honest and actionable feedback. Acts 1 and 2 of Moths are really, really close to being complete. Now I just have to finish the rest of the book. So that's what we're gonna do for the rest of today. I'm actually gonna take my laptop to the pool, so hopefully I'll get some words in. I'm not feeling too pressed. I have zero intention of finishing this book this week. I think that would be too much. Honestly, I might take a look at Act 3 and see what I can polish up, but yeah, man, it's so nice. I will catch you guys in a little bit. Bye. Alright, it is Tuesday, February 20th. I think I'm gonna probably wrap this vlog up because Kelly just got back to me and she's not gonna get her feedback to me until like this weekend, which is totally fine, but I don't want to extend this vlog into this weekend because I think that if I push it, I can probably, well, I plan to finish this draft in the next week or so. And for that, I really kind of want to do a separate vlog so I can really focus on like the triumph of finishing, I guess. It's been a couple days since I read the feedback from Chris and got the feedback from Sam. I've been able to digest it a little bit, and honestly, like, it was almost entirely complimentary, and the stuff that was pointed out to me as like could potentially be fixed was stuff that I already knew I wanted to address in a revision. Oh my god. Sorry, side note, sidebar. It's been so hot today, like unbelievably hot. I am just drenched in sweat even though it's 8 p.m. That's why I have a little bit of a glow going on, but you know, it's all natural. Going back to the feedback, I'm so thrilled that it was so complimentary. It does make me a little bit nervous because I definitely know that Acts 3, 4, 5, so far, they just aren't up to the caliber that Acts 1 and 2 are, and I really have to bring them up to that point and also make sure that they deliver on the promises that Acts 1 and 2 put forth. And my plan is to send out the rest of the book when it's a little bit more polished to these same readers and sort of get their feedback on the entire thing. In general, when I get feedback from multiple people, which is always good to do, it's good to get multiple perspectives so you can sort of look and see especially what the themes or common threads are. So for me, in this round, the one piece of feedback that I got from both of them was that the magic system and some of the world building, like finer details in the world building, just needs a little bit more to it. So my recommendation for you, if you're parsing beta reader feedback for the first time, and if it's like really overwhelming and there's quite a bit of it, I would take a step back and look and see, because remember that the people reading your work are going to bring their own opinions into it. So the main things that you probably want to focus on to start are going to be, what are the things that come up again and again with multiple people? What are the things you already kind of knew were going to have some issues and maybe you just needed that confirmation or a new perspective? And yeah, that's pretty much it. All in all, I'm really glad I got feedback on this before I finished the first draft. I know that's a little bit unusual. It's just something that's worked for me, one, because I needed that validation that the book is real, and also because it sort of helps guide the writing of this final portion of the book, even though it's a very small portion. Now that I have an idea of what I'm going to fix and how I'm going to fix it, I can implement that into the later acts preemptively, and that means that I have less fixing to do later down the line, if that makes sense. What keeps coming back to me as I'm writing these final acts are actually Chris's notes on the subconscious themes that I'd included in the first 2 acts. I have the opportunity to make them come through so much stronger, to make them have a say in how the ending is written, and overall just like incorporate them in a much more conscious and clear way. Also, I have glanced at the line edit notes that both of them left. I think they're pretty straightforward. I'm not going to bother with that until a little bit later down the line when I'm doing more fine tuning of the first part of the book. I feel like I recommend that for everyone. Don't get caught up in copy edits or the phrasing necessarily until the story is solid. Okay, as for writing progress, it's been slower. I kind of like took a step back this week because I just didn't want to finish the book too quickly. Like, I really want it to be a separate video. I don't know if it's content creator brain or what, but I just want that to be its own like separate video, and it's also going to be filmed in congruence with me as I'm like packing up to leave Thailand, so I feel like that's very fitting. I have been taking a little bit of time to revisit Act 3. It's so much messier than I thought it was, which is frustrating, but I think that honestly at this point I'm not ready to deal with that mess. I think I need a little bit more time, and I'd rather write the end of the book and go back to it. This weekend I'm going on one last little trip with my little friend group here to Khon Kaen, the biggish city that is closest to us. So I'm going to end this vlog a little bit early. I'll probably end it tomorrow after one last good session of writing. Tomorrow or Thursday? Probably tomorrow. Wednesday is one of my lighter days, so hopefully I can get a good amount of drafting done. I want to sort of pick back up where I left off on Act 5 because I've been slowing down a little bit, but now I'm afraid that I haven't left myself enough time to finish before March 1st. I think I will. I think once I get into the groove of things, it'll be just like a straight shot to the finish line. So yeah, that is today's update. Honestly, not a lot has been happening other than like the thinking and the rumination, so this is maybe going to be a little bit more of a cerebral vlog. And I'll catch you guys later. Bye. All right, let's do this. Sorry, I look a bit like a mess right now. It has been 100 degrees all week. I actually haven't filmed in a while because I haven't really been doing anything other than the routine, just putting words in. So I figured I'd just end this vlog and start on the next one, which will hopefully be the one in which I finish Moths. It is Friday, February 23rd, just a little update. I'm currently sitting at around 72,606 words for this draft. And in this year alone, like with all of my short stories and a little bit of Crips and most of Moths combined, I've written over 45,000 words. So for 2 months in, that is not shabby. I'm almost done writing the first full chapter of Act 5, which is chapter 26. I might cut it up into 2 smaller chapters because it's getting kind of long. Just a lot is happening, so I'll have to look for a natural break in that. Let me know if you guys are interested in hearing about how I sort of cut up chapters. For me, honestly, it's mostly intuitive, but there is a little bit of a logical thought process to it, I think. Chapter 27 is also close to complete. I've been writing out of sequence for these because there's just a lot of disparate parts that I need to work into something that makes sense. So writing out of sequence has been working for me for this part of the book. And honestly, I'm really liking how these chapters are turning out so far. I think they're really engaging. They're not super actiony, but they're tense. So much is happening. So much culminates in these moments. In my opinion, of course, I'll need like a second opinion on that. I think so far for like early drafts, they're really good chapters. I'm really excited for how this act is progressing. I think it's going to be one of the stronger acts, which is really exciting. But of course, acts 3 and 4, my problem children, I'm gonna have to get back to those eventually. So that's pretty much it for this video. Everything is kind of going smoothly, and I'm about to go play badminton, and then we have a 3-day weekend, so my friends and I are going on like one last weekend trip. We're going into something a little bit different. I have really mixed feelings about this being the last few days of my time in Thailand. In pretty much exactly 1 week, I'll be flying back to the States. And that's gonna be a really long journey, but that's okay. Of course, I'm really excited to get back to my life and the people I love and do all the things that I've missed doing. But there's like a lot of stuff I'll miss. Definitely just being able to afford to live and do the things I like, a couple restaurants, my friends, my little friend group, my students, of course. I got like a little teary-eyed in a couple of my classes because some of them like don't understand that I'm not coming back. And I've been trying to explain it to them and it's kind of tough. But also just like, I'll probably, well, most likely, almost 100%, like never see these students again. And it's, I don't know, they're like my first batch of actual students that I've had in my life. So it's a bit of an emotional thing. But all in all, yes, I'm really excited to be going home. I can't wait to get everything back on track. I can't wait to start school again. I love being a student. I want to be a student again. One last time for the road. I love education, so I'm really excited to be studying that and going into that and learning more about it and how to do that effectively. Just generally speaking, it's always hard to close a chapter on your life, especially one that is such a dramatic shift, and I had to really adapt myself to make this work, basically. And now I'm gonna have to adapt myself again to make home and school and all that work. So that was my musing ramble about my life. I'm going to be making just like, I think 1, maybe 2 videos about this experience that are kind of like resources for people who potentially want to do this program, and also resources in general for people who want to teach abroad or teach in Thailand specifically. So I will do that at some point in the future. And then, you know, we're closing the chapter. Oh, we're closing the book. That is officially the end of this vlog. So I will see you guys next time. Thanks for coming along as usual. Next time we're gonna finish Moths, so let's get there. All right, see you guys later. Bye.